So what we're going to try to achieve today in this video is making a rock facing kind of similar to what you see sitting under the CSX engine here or in behind the coal mine up there. We're going to be taking and doing several techniques using rock molds. Plaster of Paris is my go-to for doing my rock molds, and then we'll release those after we make the molds. I'll use the castings with some extra plaster of Paris, and we're hoping to achieve what this looks like on video and what it looks like in person, which is a solid rock wall. This was used with castings and taking several different tools, nicking away at some of the plaster and blending all the rock molds so that you couldn't tell where one ended and one began, and doing neat little scenes kind of like this one where there's kind of like a little cove in there. That way we can do some hidden scenes, put some animals in with it. Several different ways to play around and tie it in with the scenery. So without further ado, let's take a look at the project we're going to be working on. Alright, welcome back, and this is the area that we're going to be working with over the course of the next several days, or for you, the next several minutes. So you can see that I have the concrete retaining walls already out. This will continue all the way down and go into a concrete double line or double track portal, which will be right in there where the finger's at. Now we're going to come back down here, and I've already got some rock castings out, but I've got several more to cast before we're completely ready for this. But what we're going to do is we're going to start placing these in certain areas, and then we're going to blend them together with which ones look right with each one. We're going to go up over the top of these three lines here, get this rock face here, or this face turned into a rock face, and then it's going to come on down and it's going to blend around to here, so that all of that is one continuous piece all the way down of rock until we get down here to the concrete portals, or I'm sorry, the concrete retaining walls. So without further ado, let's go in and see what all we're going to need. Right, some of the tools for the job: several mixing bowls. You'll need a water bowl, and then you'll need your molds that you're going to be using during the process. Now these two molds here are for my retaining walls. Let me move the water container out of the way. This mold here is going to be for a retaining wall with no edging on it. I'll pour the plaster into here, and then after several minutes I can be able to pull one of these out, and I'm going to have to repeat that process probably 20 times, I'd say, if not a few more. And then I have a mold for this one, which has the edges on it, and then has the top block. And the reason for that, the reason I'm going to be using those two the most, is I need to make the rocks look like that, or I'm sorry, the retaining wall look like that. So those two pieces over and over give you a nice retaining wall. And that retaining wall is what's going to be going all the way down through here, because under these rubber molds that I have here that I believe are from Woodland Scenics is my double crossover main line that also takes us into staging. So this has to be a crucial piece of the layout that is uncovered. And with that, I want it to have nice scenery, because there's going to be a lot of traffic coming in and out of here since we're joining in with staging from here. We're also going to be turning trains, and we're going to be directing which traffic or which side of the main line it's going to be on, because there's main line here and there's main line here. One of them will be going that direction. This other one will be going that direction, which is eastbound and westbound. So this is a crucial piece of the layout, and I want to be able to show it off. And not only show it off, but also have nice scenery around it. Plus, right above where we're going to be working on here, right up underneath here, is the yard ladder and then the yard tracks. And there's 6 tracks total coming around here, around this curve. And I want this to be a nice signature scene on this side of the layout. So without further ado, let me show you the process that we're going to be working with. And one other thing that I forgot is you definitely want to use some good mixing material or some good mixing utensils. My wife was gracious enough to donate me some old silverware that we had, and it's nice and durable. You can use plasticware. The only bad thing is with plaster, over time it'll make it brittle and it'll break. It could possibly break into your molds, so that's not a good thing to have happen. So after several of those, my wife donated some silverware to me, and I've got some spoons, some knives, some forks. All of that comes into play and makes it nice and handy to have. But I'm going to show you how I'm going to start piecing some of this stuff together, and hopefully how it all makes sense and comes out with the finished product at the end of the video. Thank you, and stay tuned. Okay, so I went out to the garage. I got some plaster of Paris out of my 20-pound sack that I've got of it. I usually get that down at Home Depot or Lowe's. Usually runs me about $20, usually a little under. So not bad, $1 a pound of that. Of course, when you've got it all mixed, it's going to weigh a whole lot more than that. But so far on this layout, I've went through I don't even think I've went through a full bag of that yet. But I've got several, or probably got about 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds of it right here. I'm going to take that, put it into my mixing bowl. I went ahead and kind of clean that out a little bit. If you've got this and it's real thin on the edges, some of it may fall in. Don't worry about that, as long as it's not really sticking out. For the most part, when you wet this, you'll be able to see if it's too chunky to use, but to me, that's not terrible. I've mixed much worse than that, so most of the big chunks are already gone out of it, and I will put the water in after I put my dry mix in. Once I make this, I've got to work pretty fast. I will pour this into my molds. I try not to make a whole lot at one time, small batches. That way I can kind of fill up molds. And on some of these molds, like this one, it's a really big rock face here. Sometimes I'll use small pieces of this, but I like this mold here. It's kind of a thin one that goes across the top. It's got a lot of nice little jagged edges. Blends in really well with some of the other rock molds that I have. Some of these are kind of deep cut rocks. Put those, I usually fill this one completely up when I'm doing molds. And then I also go ahead and fill this one up completely as well. I'm going to get these cleaned out real quick, and then I'm going to make up a batch. I'll come back. I'll show you how much my plaster, or how much of a batch I usually do, and about how far it typically goes. Usually I'll do somewhere around probably about 5 spoonfuls, about like that. And that's just a tablespoon. I usually do about 5, maybe 6 of those, and then once I get those in there, add the water to it till it looks like pancake batter. Once it's to pancake batter, make sure it's stirred really good, and then start pouring, because you're going to need to work with it pretty quick. It'll set, and usually within about 10 to 15 minutes you can take them out of the molds, depending on your humidity, the heat that's in the room, and how thin or not thin you make it. So excuse the dog that's snoring in the background of this video. I'm sure you'll hear him stepping and maybe even whining a little bit this week as we shoot this video. But I'm going to go ahead and start mixing. I'll see you in a few minutes after I get it poured, and I'll show you how much we got poured out. Thank you so much. Hello and welcome back. So out of 3.5 spoonfuls, I was able to do the 2 retaining wall molds here that I have. And then I went ahead and did 4 on this Woodland Scenics rock cut that I have. And then I went ahead and did a piece of another Woodland Scenics one that I have. Just did a piece, and this is my excess plaster that I had left in the bowl. I try to always make sure that I am using every little ounce that I can of the plaster. Try to minimize as much waste as I have, and you can always make small pieces like this one in a larger mold and then use the edges. Just use a knife to jagged that up and make it look like a piece of the rock mold. These little pieces save me from having to take these bigger ones and try to break them up, although sometimes these hit the floor, break, and make unique fault lines. So with that being said, I will wait for these to dry, and then I will show you the next step in my progress. Hello and welcome back. We've got the molds done. I actually had a total of 6 molds on the rocks. I thought it was only 5, but these are the 6 that came out. You can see the details when you pull them out of the molds. They're very nice. A little bit of flashing that you'll have to clean off, but for the most part they come out pretty nice. Look even better once they're weathered up. This was the little piece that we had left over of our material. Went ahead and put that in there. You can see you can get in there and kind of clean this up with a knife here. But this is what it'll look like. Hello, and I started forming the tunnels already. This is the first round. I'll probably add another mold right in here to kind of get these gaps. Started doing some knife marks, straight head screwdriver. Those are the tools that I'll start using. Went in, started carving. Got a nice little crack right here. That's going to make a nice little catch for some Indian ink or for some dark wash. Got a nice little crevice right in here. But literally just start taking and slapping a nice wet mixture of plaster on there, and then take your casting, and once you take and put a lot of the wet plaster in there, you just take your next mold, you smash it in there, it'll ooze out some of the plaster, and then you take and just smooth that out around the edges of the casting that you're putting in. Try to blend it into your 2 other castings or 3 other castings. But as you can tell, I've already started over here. I still have to add another, I'm thinking about 2 more castings right in here. And then take and smooth this hillside over onto them. Be nice green, nice rock cut right here. And then they'll go straight across the tunnel portal. And then when it gets over past that crack and onto this side, I'm going to take and go into the tunnel just a little bit. I don't want to go too far. Want to be able to add some depth into there so it looks like the actual tunnel has been cut as well. But I've got it painted black, and then I'm thinking for the pictures and stuff that it should show up pretty good. But I may go back as far as right in here. I don't know if you can see the tip of the finger or not, but probably just even with this on that back wall there, and then it should fade in pretty nicely. And then color that up, and that'll come on down. It'll get blended into the top right here. It'll look like it's actually supporting the roof of the tunnel. It'll come on down, sorry about that. It'll come on down and it'll come around, and then like I said, once we get down here, we'll go blend into the actual retaining wall. So I'll get back to molding a little bit more, and as I get a little closer, I'll take and try to show you how I'm taking the knife and blending it. It's just a lot to do, and I don't have enough hands to show you the whole process, but I figure I'll go step by step and kind of show you. This is just the first round of plastering, so we'll see how far we get tonight, and I will see you soon. Hello and welcome back. Got a little bit more done. I've actually added the piece in the center right here, and then went ahead and started blending it in. Got a few crevices already starting to show that'll make good for the coloring. And then I went ahead and blended around, got that going pretty good. Got all the cuts done. I think the blending up on the top is pretty well done. Went across. I've got a little chip that I got to fix right here. Get it fixed. And then went ahead and started adding to the inner part of the tunnel. You can kind of see I've got two pieces that I went ahead and added in, and I'm going to add 3 more right here, one that I broke in half, and then another piece right to tuck in behind here. And I'll kind of give you an idea while I've got a hand free to show you kind of what I do. So I built this one off the wall a little bit, and what I'll do is I'll put some plaster on the back of this one that I've got there, and what I'll do is I'll shove that kind of in behind here and then let it seep out underneath, and then form some right up in here, and then I'm going to put 2 more pieces right back here to kind of blend into the darkness, and I'll smooth it all out and then come back in with the knife and start getting it carved in. But that should make for a nice scene whenever or a nice little backdrop whenever the engines are coming in and out. I figure that'll make a good picture. Nice little scene to do as they're disappearing into the tunnel. But as you can see, I'll zoom out a little bit, and the portal itself is looking really well, and you can kind of see all the shards that I've gotten. That is one of the main reasons that you definitely want to put stuff down over your track. I like doing this before I do the ballasting. And then I will more than likely start pulling this up tonight, and I'm going to try to clean the track and get some trains running just to make sure the clearance is good and everything looks good. So stay tuned, and I will show you more tomorrow as I get a little bit further along, or if I get quite a bit done tonight, I'll take and show you one more tonight. Thank you for watching. Hello and welcome back. Several days have elapsed since the last time I actually worked on this project. I had a couple things that I did outside the layout room and was working on other things in real life. But anyways, I am back, and tonight I'm hoping to complete some more scenery work. You can see I've got some more castings that I already have laid out. I've got several more that I've got up here. Planning on trying to cast a few more tonight and also take and start working from here. And I'm going to bring the castings, or this rock face, all the way down to where these retaining walls are. I'm going to start the retaining wall right about in here, and the reason being, you can kind of see on the top right here where the staging ladder ends. It's right about where I start running out of the scenery work, or the scenery top. So I'm going to have it go on down. I'll grass the top up here, come down, may put some bushes, maybe a tree or so right in this area here on the top. Have it kind of come over the edge onto the rock face and down. But right about where I lose the scenery up here, I'll have just a little sliver. I may go ahead, and I'm thinking about raising these up to where the tops actually meet the scenery base. And then I'll have to raise, of course, the bottom. So we'll have that kind of like that there. And then what we'll do is I'll fill in the gaps on the bottom right there. I'll raise that up and have it come down to a slight edge. And then I'll probably do the same thing on down here. We'll go all the way down with this retaining wall right to the very edge. And then I'm going to raise that portal up as well so that it matches as well. But you'll kind of see, and then right at the edge here, I'm going to try to figure out, I kind of got it slotted. In there to where that goes in like that. But I'm not sure if I'm going to tie that retaining wall over a little bit, or if I want to try to cut that scenery back just a little bit. May go just a little bit more. Take a little bit of the ballast work out and have the retaining wall right at the corner there. That way it makes a good 90-degree turn right into the retaining wall. But I'll kind of have that raised up just a little bit there, and then be able to tie all the scenery together. But that's what the project is. That's what I'm planning on working on a little bit tonight. I've got several more castings of these retaining walls to make. Try to get the rest of those in and get those going. But the retaining wall will go from here all the way down to right in here. That is probably somewhere in the neighborhood of about, I'm going to say somewhere in the neighborhood of about 2 feet of retaining wall that I'm going to do. Plus I've got to put the little base in at the bottom, which that shouldn't be a problem at all. May run a piece of foam all the way down, or I've got some road bed that I can kind of build up as well. Do that, and then once I get all the retaining wall in, I get all the rock work from here on over to there done. At that point, what I can work on is putting the ballast in and the other scenery materials. I'll probably ballast these tracks, probably go to about right in there. You know, you can't see the finger there. Right about where the shadow disappears is where I'll ballast to. And then at that point, I'll leave the rest of it unballasted in there. That way I don't have to worry about any of that breaking loose and getting into the webbing where I can't see it. But for the most part, that is all I've done so far. I did that in the course of one afternoon or one little evening. I will take and try to give you a few more updates tonight as I'm working on it, or tomorrow night as I'm working on it. I'd like to try to cast as much of this as possible tonight. Try to give you some more status updates of how this turned out, and then I will definitely, when we get over to here, give you a status update of how I tie the rock wall into the actual retaining wall. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this off and start casting some and blending the rock work in. I will see y'all shortly. Thank you. Alright, welcome back, and it's been a little bit since I've done any work on here. I thought I would go ahead and show you what I've got done, and you've seen this part. I've got stopped right about here, and I did go ahead and mold quite a bit of more rock outcroppings, and I was molding these while I was doing my retaining walls. I had quite a few of those to install, but I've got this gap here, and it goes down to right in here. But I have went ahead and I will show you a picture show real quick of this project going in. I went ahead and I've installed some risers here. Went ahead and installed 6 pieces of cork, and then ran that all the way down to where the tunnel is going to be. I also put the tunnel portal on 6 pieces of cork as well. That cork is only half the thickness of what the roadbed is. It's actually a rubber and not a cork. But I've got 6 pieces of like a rubber matting. Like I said, that 2 of those equals the thickness of what my roadbed is. So the tunnel portal is actually 3 pieces of roadbed in height, and then that was able to match up with the terrain up on the top. So I went ahead and put those pieces in, put the tunnel portal in, and then I've went ahead and installed all of the retaining wall. You can see it down through here. I do not have it colored yet. My goal and my attempt here is I'm going to finish the rock work up to the retaining wall and down to the tunnel, which is all the blue that you see there. Once all of that gets put in, I'll go through, I'll put the vacuum back to it, and once that's done, I will go ahead and do more of the ballasting. You can see right inside the tunnel here, I did the ballasting right before I installed the tunnel portal. Just went into the tunnel just slightly. I figure that way it disappears into the darkness. I probably could have went a little further in there, but I don't like ballasting too much, and I fear for pictures, the further back I am, the more it'll look like it's disappearing into the tunnel. But I've got to get the ballast work done. I'm going to go ahead and paint this blue foam here black all the way in between the tracks. Put the ballast in, do the grass and weeds and bushes and shrubs and all that. Put that in, get the retaining wall, paint it. Go ahead and paint this probably brown along the top, a little concrete near the edge. Some of the edges here I will have to touch up. You can kind of see little cracks here. I'm going to try to make it look like it was actually poured and done as one solid wall. That was the idea and the goal. There's cracks in between, but you can kind of see how it turned out on the retaining wall so far. Very happy with the way that turned out. Once I get those cracks filled and everything, it will look like it was actually installed intentionally there, which is the game and the goal plan. And then I'll blend it with the ballast up on the top and a little bit of grass and shrubs probably close to the edge, and then concrete right at the edge. So that's the game plan, and I'm going to go ahead and start doing some more rock work, and I will show you more progress as it happens. I was hoping to have this done within a week's time, or so I thought, but life got in the way, and I've done some other things outside of the railroad room, so I think I've got about 3 weeks into the project right now, or 2 anyways, but I'm thinking it's about 3 weeks I've got. So project went a little longer than I anticipated, and I will be back shortly to show you more progress. Thank you.